Hello and welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Mary Grace Show. This is the Conspiracy of Truth, episode 24, the Scorched Earth edition. And I am the Mary Grace Show, Mary Grace, the voice of sanity, to help you navigate politics, culture, wellness, faith, and world events. And I have with me today our good friend Dave. We're going to have a discussion, which is what we always do when we do a Conspiracy of Truth episode. And it's a conversation, not an interview. Any other disclaimers, Dave? What else do we put out? Oh, go ahead and talk about
I
any.
will never message you on Telegram. I'm not going to send you a private message on Twitter, on X, on
Yes,
Facebook, on any social media platform. We do not send private messages asking for your crypto wallet information or your credit card information. It's a
yes.
scammer. Block them and bless them. That's all I got to say about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And same here. Also, everybody, when you see comments in particular on Rumble that are ostensibly from Mary Grace, the Mary Grace Show, Mary Grace Media, it's likely not me, especially if they're trying to get you to click on something. Please always, always make sure that if you see any replies or comments from somebody saying they are Mary Grace, that you see the verification badge. All of my accounts on all of my social media are verified. Any other accounts are fake. Please, please note that and do not click on links from any of those accounts. They're scams. Speaking of scams, there is a scam going around, and I feel like I need to tell everybody this. There are scammers going around sending people emails with DocuSign documents, and it looks very official. And if you've had any transactions lately with your bank or real estate or anything like that, they're listening in and somehow they're sending you DocuSign documents. Please do not click on those. It's a big scam happening right now. You can Google it. It kind of looks official. And like I said, if you've already been conducting business in some way, shape, or form, and you get a DocuSign thing, DocuSign is real, but they're figuring out how to spoof it. That's all I'm going to say about that. So we're going to go into the show now. We are here to talk about the first 30 some days of the Trump administration, Trump 47. And I don't know about you, Dave, but I'm already tired. It's just woo.
Hard to keep up with all the bombshell breaking news. Man, it's crazy what Trump is getting done in the
Yes,
first
yes.
30 days. It's
I
nuts.
I I think so. It's amazing. And one of the things that is obvious at this point is that the the biggest mistake they made was in giving President Trump an extra 4 years to to get his act, like, to regroup. That was that they somebody chose wrong, and there is not any sleep happening in DC right now. In fact, I think if you don't already own stock in sleeping pills and Depends, you probably should go ahead and just purchase that, because um I mean, there's a lot of Ambien being like people taking Ambien. I mean, these people, especially in the last 24 hours, like the headlines today, huge purge at Department of Defense. He's already been purging DOJ. Some of this is standard. This is just a change of batter, but there's a lot more happening than just the run of the mill new administration change of batter type of personnel changes. Wouldn't you say?
Yep. So when you're looking at news stories, it's good to remember that some of the breaking bombshell news is actually very routine stuff that happens every time a new president comes in. Every time a new president comes in, all U.S. attorneys are expected to turn in a resignation or else be fired. And then the new president coming in appoints new U.S. attorneys for all of the districts in the U.S. That's normal business.
Yeah.
If you see headlines, oh, Trump fired all the U.S. attorneys and blah, 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 that happens every 4 years. It's not breaking news and it's not a scandal,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
there are certain things that are normal. There's a certain turnover rate that is normal. However, there's a lot of turnover this time around that is not normal. And a lot of that is thanks to people like Elon Musk and his Doge team, who are just
Yeah.
going through the agencies in Washington and lighting them on fire.
Yeah.
And it's glorious to watch it happen. Um, they're Elon's talking the other day about possibly auditing the Federal Reserve. that would be that would be fun. That would be worth making some popcorn for.
Well, we've been waiting for that,
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
long, long time, and, so we wanna see that happen. I think it's one of my thoughts about this is that the I said they made a mistake in giving him 4 years. What I think has happened is that when you look at what we found out in 2016, which is that there were what we call deep state holdovers that were embedded within the Trump administration and just a lot of neocons and rhinos that weren't even hiding. But a lot of people that stayed on to effectively to sabotage the administration. And so what I believe turnabout is fair play. And I believe when Trump left in 2021, when he got on Air Force One and left, that there were many, many patriots left behind in key positions, sleepers, I guess you would say, that have been quietly gathering evidence, keeping their head down, doing what they need to do in all of these strategic departments. And so now that Doge is actively at work, they're kind of kicking off the sequence of events that has been building up over 4 years. Would you I mean, because there's no way that they're finding all this out, in just a couple of days' time. It's so much data that I believe that the patriots who have been kind of embedded and left behind have been ready to tee this up in some
Uh,
cases.
yeah, maybe. I haven't really thought about the situation from that perspective.
Mhm.
Um, it's obvious that the deep state knew what Trump had planned in his first term in office, and they did a very good job of derailing most of his plans.
Mhm.
So they had the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, the Defense Department. They were all sort of captured by deep state operatives, and they had the entire intelligence community working against Trump to
Mhm.
hamstring him, to tie him up in investigations, to slime him, make accusations, make it difficult for him
Yeah.
to to get his policies implemented. The the federal government was just full of deep state sycophants, people who were just like, we're not going to uh, put your policies into effect. It's not happening.
Right,
They,
right.
there was just wholesale rebellion against what Trump wanted to do.
Mhm.
And you're right. Their big mistake was letting him get back in office a second time after 4 years of Joe Biden. Now, I'm not of the opinion that Trump lost the election in 2020 on purpose because he knew that he needed 4 years of Biden, and it was
Mhm.
all a little scripted thing, and the assassination attempt was a scripted thing, and all this stuff was all scripted ahead of time. And now Trump is just doing the big rug pull on the deep state.
Mhm.
I don't take the view that all this stuff was scripted.
I
My
agree.
view,
I agree.
my view is that Trump is he's an alpha predator, and
Mhm.
he
Yeah.
warned us they were going to try to steal the election through COVID and mass mail-in balloting in 2020, and they did. And Trump was like, okay, time to regroup. I got 4 years to get my act together, to find some people who can work with me and help me win the election, and then help me implement my policies. And I won't make the same mistakes that I made in the first time. And And Trump, by his own admission, he said, "Look, I made some bad picks." The first time around, he was getting bad advice from people like Chris Christie,
Yeah.
uh, who those swampy morons gave him a lot of the advice for people who he should, pick for his cabinet, and he just ended up picking a lot of bad people. And this time around, my friend in DC, who's working in the Trump administration, he told me that they have been training the people who are going to come into Trump 2.0 months in advance, up
Yeah.
to a year in advance. They've been putting people through a very rigorous training, teaching them how to address the media, teaching them how to implement policies correctly, how to get around the obstacles that are going to be thrown at them when they come in and take over certain departments. Trump's people have been working on this.
Yeah.
His personnel team, they put together a comprehensive training plan well before the election to get Trump's people up to speed so they could
Yeah.
hit the ground running and just go and not be hamstrung by all the nonsense. And that's pretty much what
Good.
happened.
Very effective. Yeah, they're cohesive. And
And
Sam, yeah.
let me say one more thing.
Yeah.
The big strategy that the deep state used in Trump's first administration was they tried to run out the clock on him. They knew if they got him into a criminal investigation via the Mueller investigation, and if they got him into an impeachment inquiry or two, they could tie him up in procedural hearings in Congress with the DOJ. They could tie him up. They could exhaust him mentally. They could, what they really wanted to do was run out the clock. When they gave the impeachment articles to Nancy Pelosi, here's the tell that they were trying to run out the clock. They gave the impeachment articles to Nancy Pelosi, I think in November of 2019. And she held on to those impeachment articles until January 15th, 2020. Guess what happened on January 15th, 2020?
COVID.
Patient one stepped off an airplane in Seattle, Washington for COVID. And at that time, that was also when Trump signed his big economic deal with China. All of those things happened on January 15th. As soon as Trump made a deal with China, as soon as patient one of COVID landed in the US, Nancy Pelosi put the articles of impeachment in front of the House. They were trying to run out the clock on Trump to make sure that he was always on the defense, always on his back foot, never able to put his plan into operation. Trump saw that and he's like, okay, the second time around, what I need to do is I need to put them on the defensive. I need to have my people moving so fast, doing so much damage to their infrastructure that they can't keep up. I have to have 15 things happening at the same time so that they don't know what to focus on. And by the time they figure out 7 or 8 things, I'm on to 3 or 4 more things. And Trump has just blitzed them and they can't keep up with his pace.
It's like watching a lacrosse game. You're like, where's the ball? So, I agree with you. I don't think that, the leaving DC and all of that, I don't think it was scripted. You're not watching a movie. Trump knew they were going to steal it, obviously, but I do believe that he has been quietly collecting evidence, quietly keeping things. And I do think that there are patriots inside the machine, inside the blob, who have quietly been collecting evidence and collecting records to turn over at the time when the DOJ is clean, when the FBI is clean. And that's, I think a lot of that is going to come out. And so if term 1 was running out the clock, I would say the interim was overtime, because they spent all of that time trying to keep him tied up in lawfare and to break him financially, to break all of his allies financially, legally. And amazingly, by a miracle, it didn't work. And here we are. Look at the people that are closest to Trump, that are his closest allies. Almost all of them were subjected to some type of lawfare. Kash Patel was subpoenaed, Rudy Giuliani, of course, General Flynn, people that have so much knowledge and power and ability. Peter Navarro, and now they're right him. They're back. So it did work, and resolved as tried to destroy them. They're trying to destroy our country, and all of the people close to loyalty to our country, that they have taken this as a personal affront, because of what almost happened to America because of their lawfare. Dave, can I get you to do a regular retweet for us? I think we're I don't get anywhere on X. We're doing great on Rumble. Let me say hi to my Rumble people while you're doing that. And also, I just want to we'll take a quick little reminder here that if you are wanting to be notified when Mary Grace goes live, please get on the mailing list. Go to marygracemedia.com and sign up for the mailing list, and you will get an email before we do shows like this. That's one of the best ways to get around missing notifications. marygracemedia.com, and get on the mailing list. Also, there's a ton of great links on my website where you can shop and support our America First partners. And if you don't want to do that, I also have a Venmo link, and we'll share that here. You can give us a tip today for today's show through Venmo. Now, I am going to check over here on Rumble. I've got some great moderators over there. It looks wonderful, and we have a lot going on. Or almost 400 people following on Rumble. There's a new feature on Rumble where you can repost. It's a new feature. Go under the video, repost it, and I don't actually know where it goes, but apparently it's going to help us. So go do that. It goes somewhere. And Dave has just retweeted. So the numbers are climbing up on X. And everybody share. This is awesome. So let's get back into the nuts and bolts here. I do want to talk about Kash Patel. Should we jump right into that?
Let's do it.
Okay, Kash Patel, yay. So everybody loves Kash. Well, all the right people like Kash, I should say, because with a look like that, a face like that, the little bit of crazy eye going on, there's some people who are scared, and they should be scared, because Kash has made it very clear what his intentions are if he comes back to the administration. He has an incredible history. I would read his book, Government Gangsters, if you haven't already. This is a good time. And I actually have a Audible free trial link that I will drop in the chat here. Anybody that wants to listen to it, it's really well done. You can get 30 days free on Audible, and you can just listen to it driving around, whatever. I'll drop that in the chat. Yeah, go ahead. Dave,
so Denise, speaking of Government Gangsters, Denise just downloaded Kash's ebook or the Audible book. She had one Audible credit. She's like, I think I'm going to download Kash's book. I'm like, you should absolutely do that, because you probably find it interesting.
Yeah, it's really good. Okay, I'm dropping that link in here. Anybody that wants to try Audible for free.
We could do a 5-hour show on Kash Patel.
I know.
You've interviewed him a bazillion times. I have researched Kash, and his we're not gonna belabor the point. Kash has a storied history. He was the right-hand man of Devin Nunes during the Russiagate investigation, when there was this big controversy coming out about the Nunes memo, where Devin Nunes produced this memo to the House Intel Committee, basically laying out the plot to illegally surveil the Trump campaign. Kash Patel was the guy who actually wrote the Nunes memo. He was he was the attorney and chief counsel for Devin Nunes as the Devin was the chair of the House Intel Committee. And for his labor, Cash got investigated by the corruptocrats in the deep state and harassed and everything else. So Cash then went on to become, he was deputy director at National Intelligence under Rick Grinnell. He went on to be the chief of staff under at the Pentagon under Chris Miller. And so he's held a lot of different positions, kind of a utility infielder for President Trump. His history is he worked for years in the Department of Justice in the National Security Division and was a prosecutor, federal prosecutor, prosecuted terrorists. That's kind of his biggest thing.
Yeah.
He took here's a lot of people don't understand. In most criminal law cases, do not go to trial. What the DOJ typically does with criminal cases is they get defendants to plead out. They don't like taking cases to court. They would just get the defendant to take a plea deal and then move on to the next case. Cash has actually taken 60 cases to trial in his career as a prosecutor. He's also worked as a public defender. So, you know, there's this there's this claim out there that Cash is not qualified to be the FBI director. Well, Cash is overqualified to be the FBI director. And the fact that he's never worked in the Bureau himself probably is the greatest qualification that he can have, because that agency needs to be gutted from top level, 7th floor, whoever's at the top. There's going to be a lot of, I think, a lot of house cleaning going on in the FBI as Cash takes over. I've had several dreams about Cash. Some of my friends have had several dreams about Cash. What I can tell you from the dreams that God has given me about Cash is you should be praying for him. He has a lot of challenges ahead of him. He's going to face a lot of difficulties. And what I've seen in dreams is that difficulties are not insurmountable, but he's going to need a lot of help because he's got a mountain of corruption he has to overcome in the FBI. And there's going to be a lot of people working against him. So he needs our prayer. Back to you for now.
Well, we're getting reports that my video is compromised, but we're just going to keep going. We're not going to stop to deal with that. We're doing the best we can.
It was glitching for a while, but you're okay now.
Yeah, it's a little fuzzy, but you know, that's okay. Just it smooths out the lines. So we are gonna
push on.
We're just gonna keep going. So exactly. And I do want to say, you know, Cash, I do recommend that you check out his book. It's called Government Gangsters. I dropped the link in there for the Audible free trial, 30 days, which is fantastic. I don't think you have to have Amazon Prime to access that. Just follow the link. But the thing about Cash is Cash has been on both sides of the criminal defense scenario. He's been a defender. He's been a prosecutor. He's worked at DOJ. He's done all of these things that you say. He has not worked for the FBI, but because of his position in justice, he understands how that works. He understands the mechanisms. He's spent time around the FBI in the process, because the FBI is the domestic investigative arm of justice. And so he is eminently qualified. And as you said, one of the things that we don't want is another insider. He is going to be facing a lot of resistance. He's also going to be facing a lot of resistance in the other 3-letter agencies, because they're all intermingled. And so we do need prayer. One of the things that we've seen is that this is not a battle against flesh and blood. And this now more than ever, we have to understand this, that the severity of the crimes that have been committed, the depth of depravity, of what has been happening in our country under the highest levels of leadership cannot be understated. And when you come up against that, you are coming up against powers and principalities in other realms. You are not simply facing somebody that has an ugly face and dresses bad. I mean, we have a lot of that in on the other side, but that's not that, the surface level is not the issue here. It's the spiritual realm of what we're dealing with. And so I do recommend that people take this very seriously. This is a good time to talk about your books, Dave, because you've written. I'm thinking right now about your book about on the courts of heaven, and how people can access and have the ability to pray at a higher level for themselves and for our nation.
Yeah, if you're looking for uh, a different way of interceding, I did write this book called "Defeating Your Adversary in the Court of Heaven." It is a biblical 100%. You can have all the scripture references are in the book. It's a little bit out there. Yes, it's a little woo. It's not the kind of thing that your Baptist preachers are going to be teaching about on Sunday morning. But I have had experiences, and friends and followers have had lots and lots of experiences and a lot of success in taking our cases to the court of heaven. You can go to the court of heaven on behalf of someone else who is suffering harassment and torment. So that is, if you're looking for an additional tool in the prayer toolbox, you might want to check out that book.
Yes, amen. And you are on wherever books are sold. Those books are sold under Praying Medic. And
Yep.
so that's good. Now, speaking of cash, one of the things that came out in the hearings, not only the hearings, Cash's hearings, but even in Pam Bondi's hearings, the Democrats are kind of obsessed with QAnon, and
Yes, they are.
and they're obsessed with Cash's encounters and or comments and replies in podcasts like mine about QAnon. And so there is some speculation by you and other Anons that we might see a return of Q as the revelations and the D class comes out. Um, I wanted to get your thoughts about what you think may be Cash's connection or knowledge or understanding of Q, and then what you think may be happening uh, with regard to Q. Are we gonna see Q drops to help us navigate the things that are coming out?
All right. Well, here we go. So Cash has a very interesting relationship to the Q movement. There was this time when Truth Social first launched, and so all of the big players in Trump world were getting their accounts on Truth Social. Devin Nunes got his account, and Cash Patel got his account. All those other people got Cash's very first social media account was on Truth Social. And then this Q account got an account on Truth Social. And it was actually one of the very first accounts created. It was created before President Trump's account, I believe. It was in the very, very early days of Truth Social. It was, when you look at when the account was created, he's literally got one of the first accounts that they created.
Yep.
So this Q entity on Truth Social, I never did figure out really, who this person is, but Cash has referred to that Q account, and he's gone on interviews and said, he posted on Truth Social, yeah, I'm having a beer with Q right now. He posts a picture of a table at a bar and someone's sleeve of a flannel shirt, and then in an interview he was being asked about it. He goes, yeah, so I had a beer with Q, and we were talking and having a beer. And so Cash is very, very aware of what is going on in the Q movement. I suspect some of all that discussion may have been a little bit of fancy marketing and promotion to promote the platform when it was new, to get people interested, to get some engagement, to
Mm-hmm.
sort of drive some
Good
engagement on the
thing.
platform and bring some people into the conversation over there. You know, look, Trump is a good marketing guy,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't surprise me if Trump and Devin Nunes launched this Q thing on True Social really as kind of a marketing campaign. So to the degree that what degree Cash follows the Q drops, I don't know. You've interviewed him, you've asked him questions. You can address that more than I can, I
Yeah.
think. But my
Yeah.
real quickly, let me finish here. I think if Q is going to return, this is just my own thoughts. I could be wrong.
Mhm.
If Q is going to return, it would make the most sense that Q would return and help us understand the declassified documents, which Pam Bondi referenced a couple of days ago
Mhm.
in an interview in front of the White House. They were
On her
asking,
desk.
yeah, and she was talking about the Jeffrey Epstein client list, but in that same interview, she also said, yeah, there's a lot of documents that have to come out.
Yeah.
She's referring to a massive trove of documents that have to be declassified. Now, if you listen to Cash, if you've heard any recent interviews with Cash Patel prior to the election, what was Cash hammering over and over again?
D-class.
Declassification. That his main thesis in the book, Government Gangsters, is these people hide their criminality behind classification of documents.
Mhm.
And if we can get at these documents and declassify them and make them public, we'll finally have the exposure of corruption that we've been waiting for. And I think if Q is going to return, it would likely be to help us wade through this ocean of documents and give us some specific
Mhm.
instructions about where to look for the most relevant things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
back to you.
Well, and with that in mind, the classification system, was it Trump the other day who said we're going to look at classification in general, declassed and classification? Who was it that said that?
I don't know.
Basically, because, well, let's go back to the documents case, the Mar-a-Lago raid. Um, what were they looking for? Obviously, because Trump declassified everything supposedly. And if I were deep state and I were trying to figure out what exactly he declassified and when he was going to release it, I might want to set up a raid too and find documents.
Right.
We know that that wasn't part of the movie, um, but that was real. And Trump is pretty pissed off about that. Melania is pissed off about that. They went through her underwear drawer and her child's room, and so obviously they that whole thing was a setup. What were they looking for? If they are using classification to hide their crimes, I can't remember who was talking about it now, but the idea of declassification is to protect sources and methods, to protect our national security, national sovereignty. But it was Sam the spy was on my show, and he was talking about this, that you can go overboard with classification. And it's been used as a way to conceal crimes rather than to protect national security. And so that is something that has to change. And speaking of that, we do need to make sure that all of these people that President Trump are pulling from these positions also have their security clearances pulled. That is critical because we don't want them accessing that. And from what I understand, there's different departments. So if you have a security clearance through DoD, your clearance has to be pulled through DoD. If
Right.
you have a clearance through FBI, it has to be pulled through FBI. And
Right.
so we have to make sure that we stay on top of those administrative logistical pieces, just like we're having to do with J6. The pardons went through. There are judges who are still obstructing the release of some of the J6 prisoners. The security clearances have been stripped. it is important that we stay on top of, and the people in the departments follow through and make sure that these security clearances are stripped. And because one thing Sam was saying on my show the other day is that, for example, in the in the agency, CIA, there are people who will still resist. There are still sleepers in there who, and there was actually, he told us about a meeting that took place uh, not long ago with a high-ranking official in the CIA, public, uh, uh, a- a- who was in an official meeting, who was publicly criticizing Trump and saying, "I can't believe that POS got elected again." So these are people in high positions of authority and decision making that still need to be rooted out of these agencies. And this is an area, I think, a prayer point, because we're talking about thousands and thousands of personnel that have to be discovered and rooted out. And it is, it's sometimes like, okay, I'm going to give you an analogy. I used to have a Dalmatian, and I'm going somewhere with this. That dog, I don't know if you know this, but Dalmatian hair is barbed. What does that mean? When the dog sheds, the hair gets everywhere, but it also gets lodged in everything. And so when you vacuum your car seat, or you wash your clothes, or you clean your rug or your bedspread or whatever, years later, you can still be finding little white hairs from a Dalmatian because they get lodged in. And this is what we're dealing with right now with all of these. Think about all of these deep state players, these never Trumpers, these blue-haired meanies that are lodged in these agencies that are working against really not just Trump, but all of us, the will of the people. The people who are team freedom need to have the wisdom and revelation to find and root out all of those people and get them out and keep them from sabotaging uh, the Trump's agenda and his mandate. That's what has to happen. So it's just like all those little white hairs. Get them out. They got to get
Yeah,
out.
well, and you said it's this is a prayer point. Denise and I are specifically praying for that these people would be exposed, that they would be removed from government, and that if necessary, that they be replaced with patriotic people who are willing to carry out the will of the voters. So, really good prayer point. And real quickly, a little side note: President Trump posted on Truth Social, I think a couple hours ago. He posted a little message telling Elon, "Hey, Elon, you're doing great, but we need to ramp it up a little bit. We need you to be more aggressive." Uh, and Elon then posts it on X and says, "Yes, sir, Mr. President." So if you're already getting a little bit of neck pain from the whiplash that's been happening with Trump and Elon, you might want to get a little neck brace and put it on, because the G force is going to increase over the next couple of hills on the roller coaster.
Well, they already reassigned the acting head of ICE for not deporting people fast enough.
Correct.
And
Correct.
that's not
You
Tom
got
Homan.
you
That
got
is
30 days and you're not meeting my expectations. Guess what? You're not hacking it. You're
yeah, don't
replaced.
yeah,
Find somebody else.
get your stuff, you're going down the hall.
Yep.
So that's what they did already. It's somebody called Vitelli, out. Not they're no longer acting director of ICE, not working
Right.
fast enough. And
Right.
one of the things that is the case with Trump right now is that he's working like every day is his last day in office.
He
And
is.
that's his mindset. Like he's not stopping. And his team is not
If you
stopping.
listen to the interviews of people who are working around Trump, and these young guys, they're like, "Well, Trump is driving us all crazy because he never sleeps. He's running circles around us. He keeps asking, how many executive orders did we sign today? How many people got deported? How many people have been fired? Can we get some more people out the door? Can we save some more money? What is Elon doing? Hey, come on,
Yeah.
give me a report. We need more stuff going on." And he's just incessant. He's like, how many days do we have left in
Yeah.
my term? How much more stuff could we do today? Like today, what can we get done? Because we're running out of time. He's almost operating like this is his last week in office, like all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and the Doge guys, I think, are sleeping at Treasury, and they just keep bringing them cases of Red Bull. So that's sort of how this administration is operating right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're living on whatever they're eating and Red Bull. So, if you want to support Team Doge, just send Red Bull. Um, that's yeah, who knows what's going to happen to their metabolism down the road, but we got a country to save. So, that's how it's going. So, I wanted to so let's just go over what departments have already been purged. DOJ, we've had a massive layoff at DOJ.
Yeah.
Last night, so on Trump's official first day, on Cash's official first day, he reassigned, I think it's 1,500 agents from DC. Now he has
I
said
missed out
all
on that.
yeah, he said all along that he wants to empty out corporate FBI headquarters in DC. I think there were over 7,000 agents assigned to DC
Here's
to
his
spy.
quote. On day one, we should empty out the J. Edgar Hoover building, take 7,000 agents, send them out to field offices around the country, and turn that thing into the Deep State Museum. That's what he wants to
Yes.
do.
Yes, that's what he
Uh,
wants to do, and I have a feeling there will be a display specifically just dedicated to Watermelon Head. I think there's gonna be
yes.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
and people don't forget, Adam Schiff is Kash Patel's mortal enemy. So even if Adam got a pardon, his day of reckoning is coming.
yes,
Guaranteed.
yes, yeah, and that, absolute pencil neck
So,
is not
so
gonna go off
I
easy.
saw some people posting that Cash was reassigning people last night, but I didn't see any sauce for it, so I didn't retweet any of that. But that's
Okay,
apparently
yeah, Brianna Murillo, let me pull up her account. She actually posted that she was in possession of a letter and she's a reliable source. So let me find this. You talk, I'll look. Don't get mad at me, everybody, for not watching the screen. I'm looking for this post.
so. We've got apparently a pretty good purge coming out of the Pentagon already, especially at the top. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Charlie Brown, is toast, which is good because he was a woke nut job and he's out. And if you've been following Trump's rallies and you remember the story about General Kane, General Raisin Kane, the guy who told Trump, well, Mattis is lying to you, and all these generals are lying to you. We can get rid of ISIS in 3 or 4 weeks if you just let us do it. And Trump was like, "Are you serious?" And the general's like, "Yes, yes, sir. We can hit him from this side, hit him that side. We'll get rid of him." Well, that guy, General Raisin Kane, has been promoted to chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and they're wiping out a bunch of other crazy idiots at the top of the Pentagon and putting in patriotic people to replace them. So let's see. Uh, what else has been? Have you figured out the
Yep.
post?
Yep.
Or
Yep.
okay,
Yep. So,
jump in.
so Washington Post was reporting FBI managers told 1,500 staff and agents are to be moved from headquarters. So Brianna says, I've obtained the email Cash Patel just sent to employees. She posted this yesterday evening. And basically, this so I want it my it's my intent to reduce the footprint, I'm summarizing, of the National Capital Region. This will include reallocating personnel to the field offices and Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville. So he's sending a number of them to Huntsville, Alabama. It looks now the number 1,500 isn't in this email, but I think it's being reported that at least 500 are being reassigned to Huntsville, Alabama. So we'll stay on top of this story. If anybody else has any other sauce on that, please drop that here. I've seen it in a couple of other places, but Brianna is she I think she was one of the first to report on it. Um, yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I just also found out that President Trump will be speaking at CPAC in about a half an hour today.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
Denise told me that we're going to be up against Trump at CPAC, and I was like, "Well, what's new?"
he's done that to us before, so
Yeah.
he didn't consult with me.
So,
Um,
real quick, Department of Interior has laid off a whole bunch of people. Let's see, Department of Energy has laid off people. Department of Energy actually laid off some of the wrong people, and they had to rehire some of the people in the nuclear safety department. They're like, "Oops, we didn't mean to terminate you. Come on back." Let's see. Department of Education is being pretty much destroyed. So the plan with the Department of Education is they're in the process of retasking the states with functions and obligations and programs that are currently being provided at the national level. They are contacting all the state departments of education and telling them, look, this is going to be your ball from now on. We're getting out of this business. So buck up, because we're going to be shuttering up here pretty quick. And there's an investigation. So just Trump had a little argument yesterday with the governor of Maine about her refusal to abide by Trump's new policy, which says that girls are girls and boys are boys, and we're not going to put up with this transgender nonsense in the girls' locker rooms and bathrooms. And the governor said, "Yeah, well, screw you. We're not going to comply." And so the U.S. Department of Education is investigating them for potentially criminal behavior in violation of federal law. So FAFO is coming to them. And I'm just trying to give you a kind of a brief
yeah,
update on all
yeah.
the agencies that I know of that are downsizing massively. It's most government agencies are being massively downsized. IRS has already been downsized a lot. It's going. Look, Trump may end up literally getting rid of the IRS, getting rid of the personal income tax, creating a Department of External Revenue. He
Yeah.
wants to shift everything over to external taxes and tariffs and get rid of the personal income tax. So there's a lot going on.
Mhm. He's to I'm going to add to that. He has there was actually something funny that happened yesterday. He he the National Park Service apparently, I don't know if this is true, but apparently
It's true.
they laid off
It,
the only locksmith at Yellowstone.
it's true.
And so somebody put up a post. It was somebody was I think it was a leftist, but it was very funny, like in all caps, "Help, I'm locked in the bathroom at Yellowstone and nobody has the key."
Well,
And
that's not true. But what is true is some dimwit got on Twitter and was ranting about how the Trump administration fired the only person at Yellowstone Park with institutional knowledge of how to get people out of the bathroom. I'm like, really? So, how much institutional knowledge is actually required to unlock a locked bathroom door? I don't know.
right, yeah,
The
so
cope, the cope with the left right now is just insane. What these people
it
are
is, it
doing.
is. But the other one too is you posted about this, is the US Postal Service is being moved under the Department of Commerce, and I was thinking
Yeah.
about this. This is no small thing because not only is the US Postal Service hemorrhaging money, it has been for a long time, and Trump has remarked on this a lot. But if you recall, the mail-in ballots was one of the biggest ways that they stole the election. And Trump has, he talked about this during in 2020. He mentioned it the other day that we went from having, we went from having, um, it was Victor Davis Hanson said this. He said that prior to COVID, we had 70% of voters voting in person on election day. Post COVID, 70% voting early by mail. And Trump
Right.
wants to stop that. He said
Right.
just yesterday, I want paper ballots in person election day. Now, it's actually illegal for the Postal Service to get involved with elections at all. They should not be handling ballots. There's no chain of custody. It should never have gone to that. And so my guess is that this is obviously a way to put a stop to that as well when you reassign an entire agency under a different department. Now I think a lot of people haven't figured that out yet, and so he has a little time. I probably shouldn't have said it. Pretend I didn't say it.
This has something to do with the postal employees union as well,
Okay. Yeah.
because the union is very much influenced and led by Democrat sympathizers. And if there's any hanky panky going on
Mm,
with the mail-in ballots in and the postal service, it's probably a union issue. And I think
crazy.
Trump wants to get to the root of that and pull it out. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
change is coming
Interesting.
for the postal service.
Yes, good. Yeah, well, maybe we'll get our
Hey,
mail on time.
so I was listening on a space last night to a bunch of guys who are they're all deeply invested in Russiagate. So these guys were doing Twitter threads on Russiagate throughout 2016, 2017,
Mhm.
2018, trying to get to the bottom of, Christopher Steele and the Mueller investigation and the witnesses, and trying to get their big thing is they're all they're sending in FOIA requests to get access to information to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And it was a pretty dry conversation.
I
But
can imagine.
but as an anon, as a researcher following Q, that's kind of my thing.
Right.
I have been, each anon, each researcher sort of has their own area of specialization. And even though I'm not an attorney, a lot of the anons have come to me when it comes to FISA stuff that Q has posted. They're like, okay, what does this mean? I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand all this stuff. So I've kind of filled the shoes of a law fag among anons, even though I'm not an attorney. All of that is to say this. There was a lot of doom fagging on this space last night where the guys were saying that Kash is not going to release all the stuff about the Mueller investigation, about Spygate, that they don't think he's going to have the time and he's going to be too busy, and all we're going to get is redacted crap. We're not going to get to the actual information. And
Really?
yeah, and there's a lot of guys out there who are very pessimistic about the fact that the possibility that we might ever see any of this stuff come to light. I this morning on X, I had all of these doom fags showing up, posting, "I'll believe it when I see it. Nothing's going to happen. No one's going to be held accountable. We're never going to see anything. It's all going to be redacted." One person after another, after another, after another, after another, all doom fagging on Kash and Pam Bondi and their promise to declassify this stuff. And I'm telling you, I'm just telling you right now, these guys are not messing around. Pam Bondi and Kash are putting their reputation on the line. They're telling you transparency is coming. Alina Habba confirmed it this morning in an interview. She said, look, transparency is coming. That Epstein client list, it's coming out. And those people are going to be held accountable. We're not screwing around. So if you're having a little bit of pessimism and fear, like you're going to get Trump's going to rug pull you. Okay, I get it. We've all been rugged for so long, expecting this, waiting for the arrest, waiting for the declass, and it never happens. I understand having some pessimism. I get that. I'm just telling you, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Trump are deadly serious when they tell you that they're going
Yeah.
to declassify this. They're going to hold these people accountable. They're going to be arrests.
Hmm.
It's coming. And I think that we're going to see some very serious consequences happen after the stuff is declassified and after they start making arrests. I think it's going to radically change the political environment.
Yeah. Now,
So
how much of the doom fagging do you think is a an op? Just kind of
not
designed
much of it. No, I don't think these are bots. I think
these
these are
are
just a lot of
these are
these are
but
just a
these are
lot of people who have been watching this show for 8 or 9 years, and
Mhm.
they're just tired of the promises. And
Right.
they've been promised, and we've all put out the memes. Kash Patel activated, with the little, sunburst in his eyes, and Durham and Huber and all these
Yeah.
other guys. Barr, he's the
Yeah.
B2 bomber, right? Like, I'm as sick as everybody else of being promised that we're going to see arrests, that
Yeah.
these people are going to be held accountable. It's been promised to us over and over
Mhm.
and over
Mhm.
again, and I'm as sick as everybody
Yeah.
else is.
Yeah.
I am not staking my reputation on saying that it's all coming. I'm
Mhm.
simply telling you, I've been listening to what these people are saying, and they seem to be deadly serious. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Barr, I've never heard, for instance, Whitaker or Barr or Chris Wray ever promise that they were gonna hold people accountable for corruption in
Mhm.
in government.
Yeah.
Um, they've always kind of danced around that issue, and if they said anything, they have pretty much denied that that's even a thing, that there
Mhm.
aren't really corrupt people in government. When
Right.
I listen to Kash Patel and Pam Bondi talk, I hear people who seem very passionate about transparency and accountability.
Mhm.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw Pete Hegseth put out a video yesterday. Uh, it was like a 10-minute video. He went through some talking points, some things that the fake news has put out about what they're doing in the military, things that changes that they're making and things like that to correct
Denise
the
read it to
record.
me.
Yeah, so he's he said, "In the interest of transparency, we're gonna be giving you these updates," which and it was kinda like a little fireside chat, just telling everybody, "Here's what's going on," which I think is amazing. We never had that kind of communication. I do feel like it's obvious that there's a concerted effort to give people communication almost daily, or even hour by hour. And it reminds me of what Trump did during the coronavirus briefings, right? He had these briefings, and of course, everybody was home, so everybody was glued to those. And sometimes they would be hours at a time. And he knows that we don't have that kind of time right now, but he's holding frequent briefings, and his cabinet is also doing that, and this is unusual. It's not typical of what we've seen in other administrations ever.
It's very unusual when you compare what Trump's people are doing to what Biden's people were doing.
Yeah.
The only people you ever heard speaking for the Biden administration were Karine Jean-Pierre, who would just lie from start to finish in her little press
Yeah,
conferences.
the Muppet.
Occasionally, Jake Sullivan would come out and he would lie some more,
Mhm.
and you'd occasionally get one or two other people talking, but it was all lies. There was no transparency. It was always from the platform, always in front of the microphone.
Right.
What are Trump's people doing from day one when Pete Hegseth was sworn in? Boom, he's at the border, and you're getting photographs of Hegseth talking to the troops at the border. You can see what he's doing. He's giving you reports. He goes to Germany.
Mhm.
He is working out with the troops doing
PC.
PT,
Yeah.
posting on X. Here I am. Okay, now we're in Poland. I'm with the troops. It's dark 30. It's snowing, and I'm out there doing PT with the troops.
Yeah.
Absolutely transparent, telling people this is who I am, this is what we're doing, here's our objectives, here are the goals, here's how we're
Yeah.
changing things, here's our policies. Oh, by the way, it's time for a fake news correction. They're reporting all this nonsense. Here's what's really happening. Kristi Noem, same
Yeah.
thing. Kristi Noem, There has not been a day since Kristi Noem has been in office at HHS or DHS that she hasn't been posting pictures of her in the operations at the border. There hasn't been a day when Tom Homan hasn't been transparent about what he's doing. There hasn't been a single day where I haven't seen something from Brendan Carr. If you're not following Brendan Carr on X, Brendan Carr FCC, he is a new chair of the FCC.
That's right.
Dude is hilarious. He is out there trolling Taylor Lorenz and all these other lefties about he is going to hold the networks accountable for their lies and their dishonesty and their deception. He's the FCC chair. Brendan Carr is a really good follow, but he's out there every day explaining, this is what we're doing. These are the lawsuits we're going to be bringing. This is why. This is how we're trying to make things better. At OMB, Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vogt. Russ Vogt every day is on Twitter explaining what they're doing at OMB and why. Most of these guys are doing interviews. They're on Fox and Friends or on all these other news stations. All of Trump's cabinet members are being as transparent as they can about what they're doing, why they're doing it, what the policies are. And you never saw that with the Biden administration or even with the Obama administration. So Trump is telling these people, look, we have to be transparent and truthful. We have to show people what we're doing. We can't just talk the talk. We have to walk the walk.
I want to take a quick break. And then we'll come back and we'll talk. I want to talk a little bit about foreign policy. We're obviously focusing on fixing America, but there are a couple of issues that I think warrant a little bit of discussion. And we'll come right back. I want to remind everybody, one of our favorite sponsors right now is our friends over at griddownchowdown.com. Why is this so good? This is American raised beef, grass-fed, grass-finished. This is freeze-dried beef. You can rehydrate this and make anything you would make with hamburger, and you can cook with it. It's not jerky. It's actual beef. And when you buy this, you are supporting and helping save American farmland. These ranchers are based right in the middle of the country, known as flyover country, Nebraska, Oklahoma, the Kansas, that type of thing. And right now, when you get a 24 serving subscription, so it's a subscribe and save model, you get a 24 serving subscription, use promo code Mary Grace. They're going to send you 4 free servings when you sign up for that. And we're going to run that ad. We're going to run a couple of other ads. We'll be right back. And don't go away. Keep the volume up. And as always, remember that you can go to my website, marygracemedia.com. If you miss any of the links, go to the website, marygracemedia.com. Click on the shopping link. You can access these sponsors and a whole lot more. We have some great resources there. Every time you buy from them, you are helping to support the Mary Grace Show and keep us doing what we're doing. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Jordan, and this is my brother.
And I'm Nace, and we're the Grid Down Chowdown. And this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with.
Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm 3rd generation, my son's 4th generation, and I've got some grandkids that are 5th generation.
Man, that's awesome.
We've been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal.
Right.
What it's been fed. And so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years.
How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch?
Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you. He really does.
Amen.
Go to griddownchowdown.com. Americans spend more now than ever on healthcare, and we're sicker than almost anybody in the world. We've put our trust in a system that's completely let us down. Dr. Troy Sproul and the team at Synapse Center for Health and Healing have changed all that. They are a functional medicine clinic, and they get to the root cause of what's made you sick in the first place. Once they do that, they give you solutions to help you get out of that. This is the way that medicine was meant to be practiced, and this is what they're doing. They're changing the entire system from the inside out, one person at a time, and you could be one of those people. And so when you're working with the team at Synapse, they're giving you solutions and not just prescriptions. That's a game changer for me. When you set up a free discovery call with Synapse, you're starting on a journey of healing. You're starting on a journey of getting answers. And that's why I've partnered with them, because I want you to be healthy. I want your family to be healthy. I want you to have all of the resources that you need to steward the body and the health that God's given you. Go to officialsynapse.com and tell them Mary Grace sent you. That's Official Synapse, SYNAPSE. Okay, we're back. Also, quickly, I want to remind everybody that we also partner with MyPillow, mypillow.com, promo code Mary Grace, mypillow.com. They are one of the best partners that we have. Somehow I lost track of my video. But here we are, mypillow.com, promo code Mary Grace. Please go and buy all the things. This is a great place to shop for graduation. Believe it or not, graduations are coming up. So go ahead and get those orders in. Wedding season is coming up, all those things. MyPillow.com, promo code Mary Grace. You will find everything you need over there. Or if you're moving, just get all the stuff you need. Don't go to the big box store. Buy it at MyPillow.com, code Mary Grace. So we're back. I've got Dave Hayes with me, Praying Medic, and we're talking about basically Trump's first 30 days faster than a speeding bullet, the scorched earth edition of Conspiracy of Truth. And we want to shift our conversation a little bit to foreign policy. There's quite a lot going on. President Trump announced today that he has recovered another hostage from Hamas. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
And he has been bringing hostages back. Hostages we didn't even know about because the Biden administration never even talked about it. And all of a sudden we hear, oh, there has been a hostage held by Russia for however long. Things like that. He's getting that done. He is he's for the most part bitch slapping the UN and the World Economic Forum. He sent JD Vance to take care of that. What else? There's one issue that I do want to talk about, but I want to save it for last. But what else are you seeing that is worthy of our attention right now that I think is going to be separating this administration from the last when it comes to foreign policy?
I think that the EU is in for a very abrupt awakening. And particularly nations like France and the UK. Macron is coming to the White House next week. I guess he's going to be here on Monday. And apparently he plans to lecture Trump about appearing weak in front of Putin, which is only going to, of course, embolden Putin to maybe want to consider, taking further, making aggressive steps in Europe, maybe taking over Poland, maybe taking Latvia, So the EU is about to get a rude awakening. Trump sent out a questionnaire to the leaders of all the countries in the EU, and he asked them 7 questions. And all the questions had to do with their preparedness to send in peacekeeping troops into Ukraine if a peace deal was brokered. And so they were all sort of taken aback, like, what do you mean peacekeeping troops? That's your job. That's not our job. That's your job. And Trump's like, look, we're not in Europe. There's this big ocean between us and
Yeah.
you, and you're right there, and Russia's right there. So this is going to be your job. If Trump is able to broker a peace negotiation, he is expecting the European Union to provide peacekeeping troops.
Yeah.
France,
Yeah.
UK, Germany. Well, as JD Vance pointed out yesterday, Germany really doesn't have a military. We are their military. We've got, what, 40,000 troops in Germany right now? That's why Germany doesn't spend any money on defense. France doesn't have much of a military. And the Independent UK published an article yesterday with revealing the astonishing fact that the British military currently has maybe 25 battle tanks available in serviceable condition that could be used right now. 25 tanks. They were expecting hundreds of tanks, but of course, due to misuse, neglect, no supply chain for parts, the British military is virtually non-existent. So what are these countries
Wow.
to keep the peace in Europe? They're just going to expect that those good old Yankees, they're going to take care of Russia. They'll keep Putin off our front doorstep. And Trump is letting them all know, look, we're done. We're not going to be your free military support anymore. If we support you, it's going to cost you. If we don't support you, you're on your own. Have fun. We'll be over here taking care of our stuff. And I've been talking about this, and we may have talked about it on the last show, but Trump is very, very much putting in place a Monroe Doctrine foreign policy position. One of the reasons why he picked Marco Rubio, who, speaking of transparency, have you noticed that everywhere Rubio goes and everything he does, it's always going out on X, and Rubio is being very transparent about what we're doing with foreign policy and why. And Rubio's main focus right now is the Western Hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
Argentina, what's going on in Brazil, what's happening in Central America.
Mm-hmm.
Because Trump really wants us to focus on the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
That's the Monroe Doctrine. And so it's going to be a rude awakening, but Trump,
Greenland.
He's not trying to decouple from the European Union. I think what he's trying to do is to get them to stand on their own. He's pointing out their weaknesses and the flaws in their own domestic policy and saying, look, you guys have to get your act together, because at some point we're not going to be around to fix up your problems that you have with Russia or some other aggressor or China.
Well, even with the tariffs, like we had an uneven distribution of tariffs after World War II.
We've been subsidizing the European economies for decades
to help rebuild them, and Trump is like, enough is enough. I mean, you guys, like, the credit card is closed. We're
$37 trillion in debt, and we have to start paying down our debt, and we have to think about ourselves.
Yeah.
And because most of our presidents and members of Congress are corrupt as hell and being bribed and blackmailed, they could extort us and force us to pay them money to support their economy, to support their military. Trump is not leveraged. No one's blackmailing him, and no one is bribing him.
Right.
So he is trying to wean them off of their dependence on American generosity or American stupidity. It's really what it is. And Trump is absolutely going to look out for America, and the tariffs are going to be a hard pill for Europe to swallow. It's coming in March. He's going to start imposing those tariffs. And you might want to buckle another extra seatbelt around yourself, because things are going to get very, very shaky. Yeah. When Trump pushes back on the Germans and the French and the Brits for their naughty behavior, and he starts making them pay tariffs, you're going to hear all this news about a trade war with our allies in Europe, and how dare he, and he's walking away, and Trump's an isolationist. Just get ready for it. Just know that Trump knows what he's doing. Get ready for the hysteria, because it's going to be coming in the next month or so.
Yeah. Yeah. I good. I think that it's time. Like, it's way past time. And you know, the other piece of this, I think, is what's going on with the Middle East. That he's doing kind of the same thing. His proposal to get Gaza developed, that the U.S. would take over ownership and develop Gaza into an attraction in that part of the world. It's not a bad proposal. I don't think that he meant for the U.S. to, well, I know he didn't mean for the U.S. to take charge of it. It was a way to shift the discussion off of let's just make everybody get along to, hey, we had a good thing going with the Abraham Accords, and we had a lot of Middle Eastern countries on board, and we would have had more had they not stolen the election. And let's continue that, because I think that's basically a big part of what this is getting the Middle Eastern nations to take a financial interest in helping the Middle East, because
Yep.
America does not need any more refugees from the Middle East, period, full stop. And so Trump is putting pressure on these countries to take the Palestinians for a time and to invest in Gaza and to give the Palestinians a habitable place to live. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out, because the Abraham Accords are about normalizing business and trade. When you have a refugee situation thrown in, of course, that changes things a little bit, especially when you're talking about Palestinians whom the rest of the Middle East can't stand. They talk a big talk about, being brothers and things like that, but they don't like them. The Jordanians don't like them. The Egyptians don't like them. That's why they have that giant wall. But at the same time, Trump is wanting to force their hand. What do you think about that? What do you think about his proposal?
I agree. He's trying to force their hand. I don't think that his proposal can be taken at face value by Americans, because I think he has another plan, an unspoken plan. His proposal is, hey, we're going to come into Gaza, and we'll just turn it into, a Trump golf resort. We'll have, hotels and casinos, and we'll have golf courses, and we'll just run the place. And if you're Egypt and Jordan and Saudi Arabia, you're like, yeah, no, that's not happening. We're going to have to come up with something else.
Yeah, he's forcing their hand.
He's trying to get those countries to come up with something else. Trump is giving them something they don't want, so that he can get them to come up with their own plan. That's my take.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is going to get very interesting too, because when Trump cut off all foreign aid, there were two countries that were accepted where the foreign aid is continuing. Israel is one of them, and Egypt is the other. We send Egypt, I believe it's either $1.2 or $1.5 billion in aid a year. And if Egypt doesn't play ball with Trump, they're going to lose that aid. And so Trump is taking the carrot and the stick attitude with Egypt, trying to work with them, trying to get them to be, a partner, but it's rough, because the Muslim Brotherhood still has massive influence in Egyptian government, even though they've been, declared a terrorist organization by multiple previous governments. Muslim Brotherhood still has a lot of influence in Egypt.
Yeah.
And I think Trump will eventually get something worked out in the Middle East. It's going to be tricky. I wouldn't necessarily take his proposal at face value. I think he has something else planned that he's not really talking about publicly. exactly.
Yeah, this is what I think. I'm not a big follower of Scott Adams, but I think he's accurate on this, that Trump is talking past the sale, right? He's giving them something they don't want, basically,
Right.
to force them to come up with something they do want. I think that's
Right.
it's very shrewd. He's being very shrewd, and this is one of those things where when Trump does things like this, you need to protect your mind, control your emotions, 72-hour rule, maybe in this case, like the 3-month rule, because it's not for you. The messaging isn't for you. The messaging
Right.
is for people who have the ability to make big decisions about these things. And when he does these kind of things publicly, just like he did with Kim Jong Un and the red button and all of that, that was really not for us. That was a conversation that was meant to force diplomacy. And, President Trump has sort of a break glass in case of emergency diplomacy style. And he's not afraid to take that little hammer and break the glass to get people's attention and set off the fire alarm. Um, that's kind of his style, and it works because in other diplomats or foreign policy experts, they have been working on some of these issues for decades, half a century, and they haven't solved the problem. Let's just have another
Yeah.
discussion. Let's convene
Well,
a council.
something that came out of the Abraham Accord discussions, and if you haven't read Jared Kushner's book,
Breaking history.
you should read it. It's a good book.
30-day free
He,
trial on Audible.
he was the architect of a lot of different things with Trump foreign policy. He and Lighthizer put together the USMCA agreement. Kushner was the one who really wanted to get the Abraham Accords done, even though Trump didn't think it could be done. Kushner is also the one who got Trump into North Korea to meet Kim Jong Un at the DMZ. Trump, again, and his people didn't think it could be done. And Kushner was like, no, I know people in North Korea. I'll set this up. So Kushner is actually responsible for a lot of Trump's successes in his first administration. And one of the things that came out of that book that Kushner wrote was the fact that none of the Arab nations in the Middle East ever believed a two-state solution was actually doable. It
Yeah.
was a talking point. It was a talking point that was used by people like Mahmoud Abbas and Yasser Arafat, and going all the way back, all the leaders of the Palestinian groups. It was a talking point that they always used as leverage to continue this hostile relationship against Israel. And if you know anything about the leaders of the Palestinian organization was running Gaza, the top 4 people in the Palestinian government are all billionaires, and none of them ever go down and visit Gaza. They live in Dubai.
Yeah.
In palaces. They're very wealthy, and all they have ever done is they take foreign aid money and enrich themselves with it and leave the people, the Palestinians in Gaza, in horrendous living conditions. It was a big scam. It was a big grift, and I think it's probably going to over. The two-state solution was never really a possibility. And what Trump is doing with his proposal to move the Palestinians out of Gaza is he's getting rid of this narrative, this fake narrative that there has to be a two-state solution. No one ever believed the two-state solution was going to work. So Trump is shifting the narrative away from the two-state solution, which is not a solution at all. And he's switching it to something else. He's basically telling these other countries, look, you guys are going to have to come up with a problem. If you don't come up with a problem or a solution,
Yeah.
I will impose my solution and you're not going to like it.
Right.
So there's a lot of different subtle nuances going on with Trump's policy in the Middle East. A lot of things that are sort of, most people don't even really think about.
Right. And there's a lot of face-saving maneuvers that Trump is doing. You know, he's very smart. I mean, he has businesses all over the world, and people forget that, you know, that he's negotiated with people of all different nationalities and very, very high level business people. He understands how that works, and Jared Kushner as well. And I think that when it comes to business, um, Trump is good at surrounding himself with people who understand high level negotiations. I mean, he has Rick Grenell as a special envoy, which is one of the best picks I could imagine. A diplomatic envoy who is amazing. And so we really, you know, we have this dream team, and we have very highly capable people, and
Trump
it's great.
has his
It's very
team.
exciting.
Trump's team in this second administration is so much better than the team he had in the first. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Trump has
Yeah.
such high level people in his administration
Yeah.
now. It's
Yeah.
crazy. They can operate on such a high level. It's nutty. Like Rick Grenell and all the other guys. Who is the guy? He's a CEO who went in and got the first hostages out of Gaza. He went and Grinnell went and got some hostages out of Russia. I think they've got like 8 hostages out of Russia now.
Mhm.
They just go over there,
Crazy.
they show up, they're like, look, we're Trump's enforcers. Give us our hostages, or we're going to make life very bad for you. And they turn over the hostages.
Yeah, and
like,
it doesn't cost us a
amazing.
dime. And yeah, Trump's like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're not paying.
And we're
And
not paying any money for them.
yeah, it's amazing. And I think I don't know who else it was, but also like his commerce secretary, Lutnick. I mean, I posted a story the other
I
day,
love Lutnick.
his testimonial from 9/11, like amazing. I put it up on my Facebook. He told the story of you know, of what happened at Cantor Fitzgerald and how they took
Yeah.
care of their employees. I mean,
Yeah.
like it gives you chills. And this is the man who's in charge of now commerce for the whole country. It really is amazing the people that Trump is surrounding himself with. There's one issue I want to touch on because it's not getting a lot of press. I think it will get more press now because Tucker Carlson just recorded an interview. It hasn't been released yet, but this is what's going on in South Africa right now. On Trump's first day in office or first week in office, he brought attention. He put sanctions on the government of South Africa, and the reason for that, the official reason, is the appropriation of property, that they are literally taking land from white farmers. The South African government, with no explanation, no legal process, no due process, is reappropriating the land of white South Africans, primarily the Boers, the Afrikaners, and get, you know, redistributing it. It's a retaliation that is egregious. They're also engaging in a white genocide against these Afrikaners, largely farmers. The Boer means farmer, the worker of the land in Afrikaans. And this is, if you know your history at all, go and look at what happened under Mugabe in Zimbabwe, in Rhodesia, because they're doing exactly the same thing. Why does
Yep.
this matter to the US? I will tell you why. And so I want people to pay attention to this. It matters because this is a pattern of communo-Marxist rage that is being played out against the perceived oppressors of a society. What is it in Zimbabwe? It was the blacks being being convinced that all of their problems could be solved by decimating the white population. They're doing the same thing in South Africa. Now, if that rings familiar to you, it is because that ideology has made its way to American shores, to Britain and to America and to Western Europe. This is an insidious attitude and ideology that must be stopped. And one of the there's a guy a guy on Facebook, sorry, on X. He's an Afrikaner. His name is Ernst Roots, and he was interviewed by Tucker Carlson, And so that interview is going to come out soon, hopefully within the next couple of days. I want people to bookmark Tucker Carlson and watch that. This is, like I said, this is not a faraway issue in a land that most people have never been to. This is a very serious demonic ideology. There, if you look at the rhetoric coming out of the government of South Africa, they are anti-white. They want to decimate the white population, and they have killed tens of thousands of white farmers and their families, brutally slaughtered them. They are also anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, unapologetically so. And so I want to bring this people's attention. President Trump is aware of it, and there has the advocates for the white farmers in South Africa have actually gotten a document to Trump, an affidavit to them, as it were. And so this is an ongoing issue that needs attention. One of the things that I think is going to end up happening is that these white farmers are going to be given asylum into the US. And if I were you and I were living in a farming community, I would lobby to have them resettled in my community, because if there's one way that we can restore and resettle farms and ranches in America, it's to bring in the Boer farmers. These people know how to farm, and they are 100% committed to the way of life that we have here in America. They will assimilate to American life, because they settled Rhodesia and South Africa, and other parts of Africa, and they're hard workers, but they need our support and they need our prayers right now, because of what's happening. This is 100% a racial targeting, a genocide that's happening. So I wanted to bring that up, because, like I said, the spillover is already happening in America. That attitude is here. So
It sure is. And I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, South Africa is being destroyed as we watch. The power grid is just about virtually non-existent. They have worse blackouts than California does in South Africa. The poverty there is to the point where millions of people are destroying the power grid infrastructure. They're taking apart power lines, taking apart transformers, so that they can get the copper inside and sell the copper. They're going into houses and just destroying houses, raping, robbing, pillaging people. It's South Africa is quickly becoming Zimbabwe. The same thing that happened in Rhodesia/Zimbabwe, it's happening in South Africa, like you said.
Yeah.
It's tragic what's happening. I will tell you, if you're on X and you want to follow a good account, this is a guy you might want to follow. His handle is K9_Reaper.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Letter K, number 9_Reaper. I've been following him for about a year. He's there in South Africa, reporting on the devastation, reporting on the crimes, trying to do his best to kind of push back against the decimation of South Africa. He's a good follow.
Yeah.
He keeps people up to date on what's happening there. It's tragic what is going on. And you're right. If you look at it, the pattern, what are they doing in Ireland and Scotland and Scandinavia and the UK? They're bringing in all of these migrants from other countries. They're just overwhelming the native population. And now we're seeing violence starting to ramp up from the migrants who are coming in. It's going to eventually decimate the society. It's going to create racial wars.
Yeah.
This is a plan.
Yes.
The reason why they opened the border, why Biden opened the border and let 25 million migrants into this country, is they're trying to do the same thing here. Mm-hmm. That is their plan.
Yeah. And if you don't think that's the plan, I will tell you a story, because I lived in South Africa. I lived in Cape Town, and I lived on a campus that was gated. Everything has to be gated. But here's the anecdote. First of all, it was scary. because the crime and the targeting was happening even then, and that was in the early 2000s. But the thing that really hit me, and one of the reasons that I am so adamant at having people assimilate when they come into this country, and that I back what Dave just said 100%, that what they're doing is intentional, is uh, about several years ago, I would say 15 years ago, we had some friends visiting from South Africa, and they live in Cape Town. They live in an area called Bishop's Court, which is where Nelson Mandela's family lives. So a very expensive, exclusive, gated community. And we were driving around, and our this friend, we were driving past, I think a Walmart, and they had the cases. Remember how they used to put the cases of drinks outside? They would just stack up the Pepsi and whatever, and you could just buy, grab one and take it in and pay for it. They used to do that, and he saw that, and he couldn't believe it. He said, that stuff, all of that merchandise would be gone in seconds if you had it out in South Africa. And when I was in South Africa, I remember you couldn't set your phone down on the table, you couldn't put your bag down. And this is a lot of places in Africa, but the idea is just the lawlessness. There is no law, there's no law and order. And so look at America now, especially since COVID. You can't, not only is there no merchandise outside of the store, but whatever's out there is locked up. So like at Lowe's, all of the equipment, it's all locked up. Inside the store, it's locked up. That wasn't the case. Our Walmart, our Lowe's, our Home Depot has just started doing that in the last 3, 4 years. I wonder, is that coincidental? How many people came into our country in the last 3, 4 years? Oh, that's right, 25 million. Are they assimilating? No. Is there lawlessness? Yes. This is Trump understands this. He understands what is happening. It isn't just, hey, we don't like people because they don't look like us. That's not it at all. This is an intentional degradation of society and of the rule of law. That's why he wants it gone. And we have to take this seriously. It's a big deal. But that anecdote, it always sticks with me. And this is one reason that I am so adamant about people understanding the bigger picture here and what's going on. This isn't just, this is not a kumbaya situation. We are not going to be accepting of everybody and opening our doors and tearing down our borders, because I can guarantee you that if you go inside a home in South Africa and see the way that they live and the number of security measures that they have to take just to go to sleep at night, you do not want that in this country. We're talking about, iron bars at the bottom of the stairs, separating the family bedrooms from the living room, so that when somebody gets through all of the other security gates into your property, that it buys you time to get your family somehow safe and to get your weapon ready. I mean, it's insane. People are living in prisons on their own properties because of what's happening there. That's what they want in America. Very sobering.
And we are not going to let them do it. We are
No.
going to fight back.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it is sobering. I don't even know what else to say. I mean, it's very serious. But it gives you, I don't want people to turn a blind eye to this, because it is 100% what they want to happen to America. It's already happening in Europe. And that's what they want for America. Make no mistake. This is not me being, I'm not dramatic. I'm not normally like
Well,
this. So
you think about what they're doing with the laws in the UK, for example. They've passed all these laws where you can be arrested and put in prison if you offend someone with your statements on social media. If you're a Christian and you pray inside your house, and your house is within a certain distance of an abortion clinic, you can be arrested for praying in your house because you're too close to the abortion clinic. So all of these thought crimes and all of this criminalizing the your opinions and your views, it all works in one direction. There, you can have a call to prayer if you're a Muslim in Scotland and Ireland, but not if you're a Christian. If you're a Christian and you have a call to prayer, you might be arrested. It only goes one way.
Yeah.
And they're setting up a society where certain groups of people are favored over others, and that the unfavored group is now being imprisoned. Why do you think that they're trying to normalize that behavior? Because they have a plan. Like we said, what they're doing in South Africa against the whites, they're going to do it in Scandinavia and the British Isles, and they want to do it here too.
Yeah.
We cannot let them do this. We have to stand up. That is why JD Vance went to Munich last week
Yeah.
and just throat punched the European leaders and said, look, we know what you're doing and we're not going to stand for it.
Yeah.
You may think it's okay, but
Yeah.
it's not okay.
Well, we just heard that Apple caved to the UK government with their end-to-end encryption on their phones, that they're going to open that up.
Well, that's
that
an
what it
interesting
is?
thing. Yeah, they actually
Is it-
haven't.
Okay.
That's what I thought. I thought that
Okay.
Apple
What?
caved.
Yeah. Can you clarify that?
Yep. So Denise has been reading the terms and the
Okay.
changes. What we're getting from it is until recently, there wasn't a way to encrypt your data on the iCloud. And
Okay.
then Apple came up with this high-level data encryption service. It's
Okay.
an optional service and it's a new service. And the people in the UK, the regulators said, oh, we need to have access to that. You have to create a backdoor so we can get in and
Mhm.
we can get access to people's private data, because
Okay.
that's what they do in the UK.
Yeah.
They insist that they have access to everyone's private data. And Apple said, no, we can't really do that, because that is going to then
Okay.
let in hackers. They'll be able to hack in and get people's data. And this is over the issue of, whether they have a lawful court order or not to access the data. So what
Okay.
Apple decided to do is to deactivate that enhanced encryption in the UK. You don't have access to it, because Apple was basically saying, we're not going to give you a backdoor to a high level encrypted data storage. We're just not going to make it available. So if you are an Apple user in the UK, that service is not available to you. I think that's my understanding of how
Okay.
it is.
Okay. So they didn't remove it. They're just interesting. Yeah, that's a bit nuanced, isn't it?
It is nuanced. Yeah. I don't think Apple caved. I think they were like, well, the best thing we can do then, if we're not going to give them a back door, let's just make the service not available to people in the UK.
Right, right. Interesting. Interesting. Huh. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. So, let me just see. I had some oh, one other thing. We talked a little bit about tariffs, but I wanted to touch on that because that's definitely something that President Trump is using as leverage. And Howard Lutnick talked a little bit about this, about the way that Trump is using the tariffs. Um, do you have any insight on that, about the strategy that Trump is
I
using
do.
and what you think is going to be the outcome of using
I do.
tariffs? Okay,
Yep.
I thought you would, so let's go.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I love Howard Lutnick. Actually, Denise loves him more than I do.
Oh,
Uh,
I'll have to talk to Denise. I just
because
yeah, so good.
well,
He's so
Lutnick
good.
is like the quintessential entrepreneur kind of a guy.
Mhm.
He very much believes in capitalism and free market economy, and he's a
Yeah.
big crypto guy, and he's just very enthusiastic about, because he sees in Trump someone as a chief executive who can actually make capitalism work the way it's supposed to work. So
Yeah.
Trump and Lutnick are very much aware of what happened back in the 19th century when we didn't have personal income tax. The government was almost completely supported by tariffs. We put tariffs on goods coming into our country, and that paid all of our bills.
Yeah.
And according to Lutnick and Trump, if you listen to them, at that time, the government had so much money, they didn't know what to do with it. The businessmen had so much money, they didn't know what to do with it. It was a time of great wealth and prosperity, and there was no personal income tax. Their strategy, simplified, is they believe that we have the ability to completely replace the personal income tax with revenue that comes in from tariffs. Even though the mainstream media and mainstream economists are going to tell you it's a pipe dream, it'll never happen, you can't do it. They actually absolutely believe that we can erase our debt and balance the budget with a combination of tariffs and government efficiency. There's two things working at the same time. There's actually three or four things. One of which is, what would happen if we could reduce Treasury outlays from $6.7 trillion a year down to, let's say 3.5 or 4 trillion. Let's say we cut federal spending in half. Okay, that goes a long way toward getting us a balanced budget. And then just by reducing waste and graft and redundancy and inefficiency, if we can streamline the federal budget down to a point where most of the graft and corruption and waste is gone, that makes it a lot easier to balance the budget, makes it a lot easier to start chipping away at the deficit. And then if Trump just goes crazy on tariffs and just tells these countries, look, if you're gonna sell stuff in our country and you charge us a 200% tariff to sell the same item in your country, we're going to charge you a 200% tariff to bring it into this country. And we're going to make a lot of money off of you because our people want to buy your junk. It's just going to cost a lot more. And so you're going to have people on the media, on the news, and economists say, oh, but everything's going to be so much more expensive. Your flat screen TV is going to cost $3,000 instead of, $500. Well, okay, so that may be true, but what if you're now no longer paying personal income tax to Uncle Sam? And what if interest rates come down? And what if your mortgage payment comes down drastically? And what if there isn't any more inflation? What if the price of gas is suddenly 65 cents a gallon? If gas were under $1 a gallon, everything that you buy in the grocery store is going to be cut in half or less in price, other than those goods that are tariffed. Those goods may become more expensive. Their theory is we could reduce the cost of living in many different areas, so that, okay, maybe that flat screen TV is going to cost a little more, but you're actually bringing home a much larger paycheck, and you're not putting out as much in energy, natural gas, gasoline, diesel fuel, all the other expenditures that go out the door, regulatory fees for all this other nonsense that people have to pay. If you have a business, I have a business, we pay all kinds of ridiculous fees to run our business. That's the gist of what Trump and Lutnick and his team are working toward.
It's amazing. And one of the things that Lutnick pointed out, I think in one of the interviews he did on CNBC or one of those shows, is that Trump is smart enough to know to put tariffs on things that we have leverage over. Like, he's not necessarily tariffing things that we can't live without, right? He's not going to put the US in a big supply deficit by tariffing things that we absolutely need. And it's interesting, when you see these TV talking heads try to go into these topics that they clearly don't understand. They're teleprompter readers, and they're not hired for their intellect. Mostly they're hired for their willingness to be controlled, and for the money and their looks. And so that's just something to keep in mind, that they're not smart or serious people who are trying to teach you about these things. Um, they're not. You're laughing, but it's true.
They're
Um,
not. No, they're not at all.
they're not smart. They're not serious. They're kind of dumb, and so always keep that in mind when you're
Yeah,
hearing these people lecture you.
here's a real world example, and this was something that I think it was who was it? Who is the Trump aide, financial guy that ended up in prison and got out?
Navarro.
Peter Navarro. Navarro gave an example of how the tariff thing works.
Hmm.
So here's just a real world example. Cadillac and Mercedes both make a car, and the start out retail price of that car is $50,000. Let's just say, for the sake of an example,
Okay.
we export that Cadillac to Germany, and Germany puts a $20,000 tariff on that car. So in Munich, it sells for $70,000
Okay.
US. Mercedes sells their car to us. They ship it to us, and in Chicago, we add a $3,000 tariff onto the cost of the car. So it costs $53,000, and then the German government gives Mercedes a reimbursement of $14,000,
Hmm.
bringing the price of that Cadillac down from 53 down to what, $43,000, $40,000.
Okay.
So the Mercedes in the U.S. costs $40,000. The Cadillac in Germany costs $70,000. Okay, that's what we're looking at, and then there's the VAT tax that also goes in. So the price of our goods goes up even more because of the VAT tax throughout all of Europe. What they're trying to do is they're trying to say, look, we need to have a level playing field. If a Cadillac is going to cost $70,000 in Munich, then a Mercedes needs to cost $70,000 in the US. And if the price on those cars is the same or more, if the Mercedes costs $90,000 and the Cadillac costs, $50,000 or $60,000,
Hmm.
a lot more people are going to buy Cadillacs versus Mercedes. The part of the goal is to get people to buy American goods.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not to make foreign goods so expensive that they can't be purchased. It's to make American goods more attractive to buy
Right.
versus foreign
That makes
imported.
sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, and I mean, the other thing too, obviously, is that President Trump wants to bring um, manufacturing back to the U.S., and he wants to get the U.S. He wants to make the U.S. you know independent, energy independent, manufacturing independent. We all, our prescription drugs come from China,
Yeah.
and we saw that.
Critical supply chains like prescription
Yeah.
drugs need to be made here, and they're made in China right now or India.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's, as much as I'm not a big fan of the medical industrial complex, there are certain people who rely on certain prescription drugs. And when you have a country like China that holds all the leverage for supplying that, that's a problem. And that's something that President Trump really wants to address and get a handle on. We can't be in a situation again like with COVID, where where we were so dependent and where we were so worried about the supply chain. Another example of that is when it comes to regulations and returning America to more local, state, independent functioning, is what's going on right now with the chickens and the eggs. That you have this agency, the USDA, going around slaughtering all these chickens. I mean, there's stores around here where there's not a single egg in the store because the grocery supply chain has been so highly centralized. The same thing with pork. If you listen to what RFK explains about the pork industry,
Yeah,
the Smith,
we
yeah,
listened to him last night talk about that.
Smithfield just absolutely devastated and monopolized the pork industry. And I think what has to happen with farming in this country, with food production, is that we have to do a breakup, just like was done, like with the telecommunications industry. We can't have this. We can't have right now. There's one or two companies that slaughter all the meats. So even if you are a small farmer or rancher, you're forced to pay big prices, that they force you to put certain things in place in order to be able to even grow enough to get your food,
Right.
like your beef, to the abattoir. And Joel Salatin explains this on an interview he did with RFK Jr. But these kinds of things are the things that, when we talk about reducing the size of government, all you see right now on TV is people crying about getting laid off, and the media is focusing on that 24/7. You know what? People get laid off. A lot of people lost their jobs during COVID because they wouldn't comply. And nobody was running sob stories about them. People lost their jobs in the oil fields the first day that Biden was in office, and there's no sob stories on the media about them. So spare me that. But when we're talking about reducing the size of government, we're talking about putting the power back in the hands of the people to make decisions about how to grow their food, about how to run their businesses, about how to raise their families, about how to dry their freaking laundry. I mean, and flush their toilets. This is what we're talking about. It's not about whose jobs get cut and things like that. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
important.
it's also key to remember that Trump has the right people at the
Yeah.
Department of Agriculture, at the Federal Trade Commission, at the Department of Commerce. All of these agencies now have patriotic, common sense people running them, and we're weeding out the communist nut jobs who have been in there, sort of pulling the strings and making things impossible for us for a long time. I think all of that is going to change. We've got RFK coming into HHS. He's going to do a house cleaning at all of the sub agencies. NAIAD and FDA is going to get revamped. So I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about the future.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we've gotten a couple notices that Trump is live at CPAC. We're competing with Trump.
All right.
That's okay. We have a lot of people watching, and I really want to say I appreciate everybody who is listening over on Rumble, everybody on Facebook, everybody on X. I'm still blurry. Don't know why. Hopefully we'll get it fixed. The internet company was here last week enhancing our service, so I'm sure that's all connected. And
enhancing.
and we had no internet for 4 days. They cut off our internet 4 days in a row during peak business hours to enhance our service, our internet experience. So here we go. Uploads. It could be something I'm doing wrong, but I don't know. The internet went out the other day when I was doing my show with Sam, and I was tethering on my phone. So there's that. But if you know anything about this and why I might have been blurry, please just send me an email, info@marygracemedia.com.
It might be a sign of things to come.
Stop. Okay. Okay.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, that could be. Okay. Dave, we didn't talk about your books. I do want to give you, I want to give an opportunity for you to tell people about what you've been working on and how to find your projects. So give us a little synopsis. Let's see. I'm trying to find where's your Q book? Where's your latest Q book? If you talk, I'll find it.
Okay. Well, Mary is looking for the image for the latest Q book. I'm kind of looking over here because I heard Denise walking in behind me in the next room, and I'm expecting her to open the door at any minute and shush me about something. The Q book, Q Chronicles.
Are you in trouble?
if I talk about the internet going down, she'll sometimes shush me like, yeah, we just say no to that. Uh,
Amen.
Q
Hey,
Chronicles.
Denise, I am totally with you on that. Rebuke that. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
So, Q Chronicles book 4 is out. It is the 4th book in the Q Chronicles series where I cover Q's posts. I don't cover every post. I cover the books are arranged by themes. Each chapter covers a different theme. I am one of the only people on social media who cares at all about the fact that Q has these things that are called signatures. And Q has told us my signatures foretell upcoming events.
Okay.
And so if you go in and look at Snow White, Iron Eagle, Godfather 3, those are all signature phrases, right? Well, Q has all kinds of signature phrases throughout the posts. And if you understand what the signature phrases mean, you can understand what the posts are about. It's the key. Q literally said, look, you guys got to understand my signatures. And he spent a lot of time, Q did, helping Anons decode the signature phrases. So my books focus a lot on the signatures and what they mean and what real world application they have. That book is available on Amazon. It is also available on Barnes & Noble. Volume 3, the 3rd book in the series, is also available on Amazon. Books 1 and 2 are only available on Barnes & Noble. Amazon blacklisted them, and we haven't got them republished yet. And then there's other books that you might want to check out. We're going to be having a book launch pretty soon. We have a book on Meshtastic coming out.
Oh, we don't have
Meshtastic,
that. We don't have a link for that. Okay.
we don't have a link because it isn't published yet, but Denise is working on the cover.
Okay.
That is Meshtastic book is going to be about Meshtastic is an off-grid communications software you can use with low power radios. Not available yet. That'll be coming out maybe in the next week. There is another book I published about a year ago called Emergency Preparedness and Off-Grid Communication.
Look at that. I was on top of it.
Which takes a broad look at emergency preparedness, everything from preparing food, setting aside water, how to purify water, how to navigate without GPS. There's a chapter on home defense, self-defense, firearms. There's a really long chapter on emergency first aid. And then there's a lot of chapters on amateur radio and other off-grid communication ideas. That book also available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And then, of course, there is the Made Simple series. So books from Divine Healing Made Simple, Hearing God's Voice Made Simple, Seeing in the Spirit Made Simple, Dream Interpretation Made Simple, Power and Authority Made Simple, and Emotional Healing Made Simple, which is about kind of a deep dive on emotional healing, healing emotional trauma.
And if you go to these links, guys, you'll find the other ones.
You'll find the other ones. They're all there.
Yeah.
So we've got more than 20 books available on Amazon right now.
A lot.
On a variety of subjects.
Good. It's exciting. So, and then Dave has two websites, prayingmedic.com and prayingmedic.org. Oh, I want to talk quickly about prayer because, I'm seeing a lot of posts from people asking for prayer, asking for healing. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of sickness that has come up, really grave illness coming up, I think, from the aftermath and the fallout of certain things that people injected into their bodies. It's not all from that, but we're in such a toxic environment that people need prayer. You actually have a prayer group that operates 24/7 on your Telegram. And we want to let people know how to find that. I think it's a really invaluable resource.
Yeah, if you go to Telegram and go to praying_medic, that's my main channel. And then there is a chat channel that is associated with that. It's Praying Medic Chat. And we have people in there who will respond to your prayer requests 24/7. I post testimonies in the main channel almost every day. People send me testimonies of being healed and other miracles, not just healing. And we post those in there. I post a lot of information about how to operate in the supernatural, how to affect physical healing, emotional healing, how to fix broken refrigerators and appliances supernaturally with the help of angels and other supernatural stuff that you might be interested in. So the Telegram channel is a lot of fun if you're interested in that sort of thing.
And I used to be able to show the Telegram channel, and it freezes now. I think
No, that's all right.
I must need to do an update or something because I'm not on Telegram that much. And but speaking of channels, I do want to remind people we talked about this in the beginning, but this is super important that Dave and I are not messaging people on Telegram or anywhere. And my channels on social media are all verified. On Rumble, I have the green diamond badge beside it's a triangle, whatever, beside my name. On X, I have the blue badge. On Facebook, Mary Grace Media, blue verification. Please be aware of that. If you see posts on other accounts, they may have the exact same name. There are people out there pretending to be praying medic, and they somehow finagle their username in such a way that it looks like they're clever is all I'm saying, and they're very deceptive. So please be careful about that, and do not click on links. We're not going to send you links for anything financially related, anything like that. Do not click any links, please. We want to help protect you from these things. So yeah.
So there you go.
I think that's it.
All right.
Yeah, and thank you to all my moderators over on Rumble. Great job. We had a great time over there today. And thank you everybody for putting up with the blurry version of Mary Grace. Dave looked fine today. We'll get it figured out. We have a testimonial. Joan said, I laid my hands on the deep freeze after last week, after it stopped working, and I commanded to be healed. Now we need to hear the rest of the story. Did it get fixed? Okay, that's the kind of stories that people share on the Telegram channel. So it's very encouraging. We're gonna sign off now. We will be back. We try to do this once a month. And it's Conspiracy of Truth. We're up to episode 24 here. And we will be back. We'll be back to talk to you more. You can always contact us through our websites. Mine is marygracemedia.com. Dave is prayingmedic.com. And we do try to respond. Just don't write, at least for me, keep it brief, please. So I do my best. Everybody have a great day.
I appreciate short prayer requests, but some people want to give me their whole life story, and bless their heart, I'm still going to pray for them.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, we will see you soon. And thank you again. Please be sure and share this, tag other people, repost, hit the thumbs up, all those things. And then please go back and watch prior episodes as well. We will be back soon on the Mary Grace Show. Everybody have a great day. Go outside, touch some grass, look at the sky, pray, and put your phone down. Bye.